The dawn of civilization. Primitive. Dangerous. Exciting. The handwriting is on the wall. If the human race is ever going to amount to anything, it needs
the most civilized caveman I have ever seen.
Look who's come out of his cave.
You're listening to Cave Dwelling Music and the Knuckle Draggers Extravaganza. This is something that I mentioned on air last week. So if you missed it then, well, you're in for a bit of a surprise. We're having a chat to two of the gents from Malignant Aura. Their album Abysmal, Misfortune is Draped Upon Me came out last month, the month before. I'm sure one of you guys will correct me, but we are joined. Well, gentlemen, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, May 31st, man. End of May.
Yeah.
My name's Chris. I am the guitarist from Malignant Aura.
And my name's Jono, and I play bass in Malignant Aura.
Very nice. Well, right off the bat, gents, I noticed that even though it is a new band, you guys aren't particularly new to playing in bands. You've all got a little bit of a back history. Talk us through some of the bands that you were in before reaching Malignant Aura, rather, and kind of how this whole thing came about.
Yeah, man. I used to play in many bands in the Brisbane scene a fair while ago now. I used to play in a thrash band called Conscriptor and a death metal band called Eternal Rest. That's where, from those bands, is where I met a lot of the other guys. Dalton, who's the other guitarist.
He played in Malachite.
Played in a thrash band called Malachite, exactly, man.
So fantastic.
We used to be kind of brother bands back in the day, Conscriptor and Malachite. We played a lot. We often would have band members from each band stand in at shows and stuff like that. And that's also how we met Tim, who's the vocalist, who used to play in Defamer. And Pete as well, actually. Pete used to play in Malachite, Pete the drummer. So that's how we all kind of met up. And then Jono was really a newer addition to the kind of metal world that I knew anyway back in Brisbane. But Jono, you played in a couple of other bands, didn't you?
Yeah, I played in a bunch of sludge bands in high school that didn't really do anything. And in my early 20s, I always get real filthy with those guys because they got married and had kids and moved on and did the whole adult thing. Just as sludge became cool.
So what if they held out another 5 or so years? You guys would have come up through the sludge.
Oh man, it was a bunch of projects here and there. It was in a really interesting. I say interesting. My wife would call it shit. I was in a rock band for a little bit that was really soul destroying. Then Tim and I, who have known each other for a decade and a half, we were getting drunk one night listening to a bunch of Death Doom, and I was like, man, I'd love to play some Death Doom. Tim was like, oh, man, I wish I had a bass player for my Death Doom band. And then, 20 minutes later, we realised what was happening. And I came into the jam room and I saw people well above my ability shredding out Van Halen and whatnot. I was like, shit, am I in the wrong room? No, it was these guys.
It was a slow realisation. You're sitting there going fuck, I'd love to play this. And you go, wait a minute, I think this is something I can do. I'm on here.
I wish I could overstate it in a much more kind of nicer light for the two of us, but it did take a lot longer than what you anticipated.
And obviously we mentioned that the record came out on the 31st of May. Thank you very much for making sure I got that one there right. Talk us through the album. I'll get onto the vinyl pressing in a bit because I know you guys had an absolute shithouse time trying to get that going.
Yeah.
For the audio listeners, John has just pulled out a fantastic copy. Oh, look at that. That's lovely. But yeah, talk us through the recording, the writing and everything that came in behind the album.
Yeah.
I've got this. This is one of the shit presses that we get to keep.
The demo presses.
Yeah.
So Tim and I have been working on this stuff for a fair while. I have been kind of writing a lot of the stuff in the background. A lot of the base of the music was written by myself over, a number of years and didn't really do much of it. I lived in Europe for a fair while, so I was just kind of writing it when I had inspiration. Came back to Australia, and then hit up Tim saying I have these Death Doom songs. I'd really like to make a Death Doom project. And me and him started. The band was originally called Cursed by a Hag, and we wrote a 4-track demo with that and recorded that. And 2 of the tracks from that actually made it onto the full-length album.
Which one's graduated?
The title track, so the Malignant Aura, the band title track, Malignant Aura, that made it on. That's our first track on the album. And the last track, and so it was I Lay Down Forever.
I do want to touch on that. We'll get back to it. But I was mentioning this to my co-host when we played a track, is you guys were one piece away from hitting the Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Iron Maiden, Iron Maiden. We're just sitting there going like, they could have named the album Malignant Aura and they would have had that trio, you know?
It was...
we had that discussion a few times.
It was... that was where the name actually came from. You know, Cursed by a Hag was kind of a working title and we ran with it for the demo, and then the lyrics were written for Malignant Aura and this line stood out, you know, with Malignant Aura in it. And we're just like, fuck, that's a fucking sick name. And... so then we ran with that for the band. And then somewhat unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, Malignant Altar came out and released their album. And now everyone keeps confusing Malignant Aura and Malignant Altar, but we're running with it. We're leaning into it. Why not?
I remember that jam came in and I was like, guys, I just listened to some really sweet death metal demo. And they're like, oh, what's it called? It's like Malignant Altar. And everyone's like, man. Became a race to see who could release the album first, and they beat us by it was about a year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Really good album, by the way. I'm really into it.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
I like that there's no malice between you two. You're like, well, our names sound similar enough, you know.
I'm never going to be angry at people for writing sick death metal.
Hoping for a split, Malignant Aura and Malignant Altar split.
Oh, that would be good. Let's try and tee them up. Get the guys a bit of loss onto that. I reckon that'd be the way to go.
Malignant Ultra.
So they're like, it came from Cursed by a Hag, and you were kind of like writing stuff, Chris, while you're over in Europe. You had everything prepared. How did you guys find the actual recording of the record? I know we mentioned this with the vinyl. It was an absolute shit show, but was recording it a bit easier for you guys?
Yeah. So look, we had. So there's obviously those 2 tracks from the demo, and then we had a bunch more tracks written since we released that demo. It moved in a bit more of a different sound, a bit more towards a kind of death metal feel. The demo, I feel, was a bit more in the vein of. It had a lot more kind of Candlemass rocking type doom riffs, and while we tried it and maintained that, we went much more into like a death metal sound. And also those original tracks as well. Jamming with these guys, you know, everyone in Malignant Aura is an excellent musician, so getting that outside influence in really brought the songs to life. So we kind of jammed on it for a long time, and then went into the studio with Brendan Auld, who's from Descent and Resin Tomb. And we recorded at his studio over a week. It was fantastic. It was a really good experience. And we also got Arthur Rizik from Eternal Champion and Summerlands to do the mastering as well. Awesome working with him as well. So overall, the recording experience was fantastic. Brendan was fantastic. Arthur was fantastic. The whole thing was really smooth, apart from the vinyl pressing, really.
Yeah. And now we've reached that. Yeah, by all means, Jono, go.
It's for no lack of effort, I think, as well. Like Chris will always really be quite modest about these things, but there was a lot of pre-planning that went into it, and you know, Chris being a manager of people IRL, and then Tim being an event, well, not an event planner, but a project manager. There was a lot of whiteboarding and a lot of kind of flow charts as to what needed to be done and what needed to be worked on, and how we needed to work on it, what things we might not have picked up on. So, it was no small feat getting to that. But we set ourselves the timeline. I think everyone put in a lot of mileage to get there well prepared.
I was about to say, what's the old saying? Prior planning prevents piss poor performance, and I think that's been nailed to a T right there.
That's exactly it. And I think Tim played a really big part in that. Tim had to be the person who like put his hand up and he's like, "This is something I do for a living, and I hate to bring work to the band room, but if we don't do this, things are going to be shit." And they weren't shit, so I can only assume that he was right.
Without that as well, there's no way we could have recorded an hour's worth of music in 1 week, 5 days. That was a feat alone, And we had to come in real prepared.
An hour's worth of bass tracking in 2.5 hours or something like that. Yeah, there was. It got to a point where, I don't know what the other guys were doing, but we were all facing away from each other, trying to play to a click that it was the bane of Via for months. Because the click had to be louder than us, and we're pretty loud in the jam room. So you'd go outside for a durry or to grab something from the front shop, people would be like, "That fucking click track, man! Like I can hear that from the other side."
And I've had a few sessions at Via, and they do soundproof those rooms somewhat. But yeah, if you've even got them up, I used to play in a hardcore band, so you hear just the wash of everything through those fucking walls.
Yeah, that's it, man. We're a loud band as well, as Jono said. It's punishing in that room, and we like to make it punishing in the hallway as well. So
that's how Tim proofs the songs. Actually, he'll walk outside the room, listen to it, leaning up against the wall.
Kind of be like, is this loud enough from the outside? No. We need to turn this up, guys. What are we doing?
I think it's more to be able to pick up on any nuances without having earplugs in.
Yeah, that's true.
So he kind of steps outside to see whether or not there are certain cadences in the way that everything's kind of interacting that we might not pick up on because we're just going, well, it doesn't feel like we intentionally went for maximum chainsaws, but there's maximum then a bee's dick back chainsaws.
You basically went from 11 to 10.5.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah.
No, it's like Chris's lead parts in Soliloquy, so fantastically crafted on his spaceship of a pedal board.
Chris, are you kind of the guy that looks down and looks at your pedal board and sometimes you go, "Oh, fuck, mate, I forget what half of these things do"?
No, they all serve a purpose, but sometimes you look down and you think, "Oh, fuck, what's going to go wrong next?" That's more like
the amount of cables and stuff you see on some people's pedal boards, you're like, there is definitely a gremlin that's going to be hiding in there somewhere.
Oh yeah, it was like our first show, the launch tour in Melbourne. My two of my leads, which ran out of my effects loop, were not actually big enough to reach the head at the back, so they created a cage for me of leads when I was performing. They were kind of elevated just above my knees.
I mean, it starts the tour off well, and if everything goes well from that point, you're not doing too badly. Well, you mentioned there, and we mentioned this before we started the interview, that you guys have got one more date left in the album launch tour. That's going to be in Brisbane in October, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
The tour is I guess it ends with the Sydney show, which was delayed. The original,
you guys are playing up in... Yeah, okay, right. They're two separate tours.
So the launch tour will continue Friday, so next Friday, so in 8 days. So next Saturday in 9 days in Sydney at the Marrickville Bowls Club. We managed to arrange a replacement show on what we'd already had, 2 months ago. And now we're playing with Illimitable Dollar, Futility and Horisonus. So I'm really chuffed with that because it's a lot more doom heavy than a lot of the death metal lineups we had for the initial onset of the launch tour. And I don't know, I think that's good. I think it gives not only a chance for people who enjoy we played to the death metal fans, and now we've got something on there that might tweak the interest of people who are a bit more on the doom side of things that wouldn't venture too far for just a straight up death metal show.
So how was the those couple of shows that you guys did for the album launch tour? Obviously the Sydney one's been rescheduled, but how are the shows so far?
Yeah, really fantastic, man. As John said, we had excellent lineups in every city. We played Melbourne Adelaide, and then Brisbane. And then we were meant to play Sydney, but two of our members got COVID, as is the way these days. So we had to pull out, unfortunately. But, they were really great. And we toured with Carcinoid as well, which we're not only good friends with a couple of those guys, particularly the vocalist, Josh. I used to play in a band with him in Eternal Rest way back in the day, and we also all know him from the Brisbane scene. But all the guys in Carcinoid are fantastic. Those guys absolutely rip. Every single night they killed it. But
all the Carcinoid, Chris. There's Jess as well.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Sorry. Everyone in Carcinoid. But look, it was a great shows. We sold out Brisbane, which was phenomenal. I remember back in the day, it was hard enough getting 30 people to a show in Brisbane. So selling out to 100 people at the Bearded Lady was a real highlight for us and Carcinoid as well. Really, really cool, man. It's good to see like people are keen to go to shows. People are keen to go back out and see heavy music again. Really, 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 really cool. Yeah.
How did you find playing? Sorry, man. How did you find playing Doom at the Bearded Lady? Because I've been there a few times, and it, like the gigs that I've seen, doesn't seem like it would be conducive to like a massive, all-encompassing and like swallowing sound. Like,
no,
I'm going to have a
love. Hey, he was having a map. But I have a few. Like I told him about it at the beginning of the show. I said you're gonna make a killing over the bar, and at the end of it, he had a massive grin on his face. I like to think it's because he enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
They did have Suicide Country Hour on earlier that afternoon, which was really cool. But no, I think the venue was pretty fantastic. I think it had a really cool vibe. I think. The aesthetic was kind of really chill, like it wasn't too clean cut. It wasn't like overly dingy. It was really, really well balanced by the person who was doing sound there as well. They did an awesome job. And they were really attentive, even working with the sound person that Shackles brought on board for themselves. So yeah, I think all the stars kind of aligned for that one. I think it was a really good night.
I only say that because it makes me sad every time that I think about it. But the fact that Crowbar is no longer around just is so fucking depressing.
I know, man. See that, and that's the other thing. It's really refreshing to see. You know, I know Beardo never used to really put on heavy shows, so
I think like the heaviest they'd do was like a grimy hardcore band here and there.
Yeah. But now I'm seeing more and more, especially touring bands, they're playing the Bearded Lady. So it's cool that they've kind of taken this on board, and it is a really good venue for heavy music. As Jono said, the sound was really, really good. The vibe is really, really cool. It's not like too uptight, you know, it's kind of chill. And I mean, yeah, everyone there had a great time. And like I said, yeah, sold out, which I was astonished with. So yeah, it was great. I want to see more shows there.
On the tour. Which was surprising, being Brisbane. But yeah, it's almost seeing that level of punters coming out for a show that's not in a main dirge of Brisbane City is pretty fantastic. Kind of, it's nice to see like Rosie's era commitment coming back into things.
And is that from memory? That's where you guys are going to be playing when you come up to Brisbane as well.
We'll be playing the back room.
The back room. Where is the back room?
It's the old Chardon's Corner.
Oh, out at Chardon's Corner. Yeah, okay, I know. I know where that is.
So the back room is the venue there. We're playing the Elephant 2, which was played at Backbone in East Brisbane for their first show.
Shit.
So the Elephant is an event organizer.
Yeah.
And they've been really cool to work with. And on this bill, what do we got? Isua, Us, Virian, 308.
Yeah, 308, who haven't played for many, many, many years, so they're back.
And
Fornicatador and Sightblinder. So it's a pretty good mix of kind of extreme music. It's going to be a really good show. Late October, it's October 29th. Nice. 3 days after the Dead Congregation and Blood Incantation show. So,
my memory's firing sharper when I'm on the spot. I have no idea how I remembered all that stuff.
When's Blood Incantation coming out?
That's October 26th, I think, for Brisbane date. Blood Incantation.
It's the Wednesday prior to the show, yeah.
Fuck, I gotta go to that.
Yeah. Their congregation as well, man. Fucking hell, that'll be sick.
I mean, yeah, definitely go to that, but also come to the back room for the
I'll be going to both. It's fine. I'll make sure to pick up some earplugs so I can actually hear by the end of it.
Yeah, Chris sent me a message. He was like, "Oh, I got tickets to the show," and I was like, "Mate, the Melbourne show's on the same night as our show in Brisbane." He's like, "Nah, you're an idiot. I got the one. I'm coming up to Brisbane early." It's like, "Oh, thank God."
Nice. That worked out pretty well. What didn't work out well, unfortunately for you guys, we've kind of alluded to this, a couple of times, but what the fuck happened with your vinyl pressing?
Rob from Bitter Loss are the ones who released the album, and they've been exceptional the whole time as well. Rob Simmons, who works for Bitter Loss, or who runs Bitter Loss, is really doing amazing stuff for underground music in Australia, extreme music in Australia, and he keeps signing like really quality bands. Anyone who hasn't checked out Bitter Loss's roster should immediately go and have a squeeze of all the bands on there. And also can't rate Rob highly enough, but he is based out of Perth, and he actually came to the Brisbane show specifically for our launch show.
Oh, shit, that's a mission, that is.
Yeah.
Well, two bands from his label were playing the bill. So Pestilence
as well.
Brisbane are also on his label roster. Yeah. So he teed that up for us, and then made the effort to come out and say hi to everyone.
Oh, yeah, man. So unfortunately, as is plaguing all other bands these days, we were just hit with delays from the vinyl pressing. Someone wanted a repress of You've Got Mail soundtrack on vinyl or something, and it pushed all the metal bands back. I don't know. That's what seems to happen these days. Anyway, so we were meant to have them ready for our May launch. It didn't happen. We didn't even have them ready for our Melbourne and Adelaide shows, but they were ready for our Brisbane show, which was on June 18. He pulls us aside at the start of the show and he said, "Look, I want you to check out these vinyls." And they had been just there was a lot of defects on them, unfortunately. A lot of scratching and defects around the edges, and to the point where we had to make a decision. Well, do we sell these potentially to people with defects, or do we hold off completely and get them repressed by the plant? And we chose the latter, just because we just wanted quality control. We want everyone. It's a double album. We do acknowledge that it's expensive because it's 2 LPs. So particularly for a new band, I know that's going to be a bit of an outlay for people and a bit of a step out of their comfort zone to spend that much money. So if they're doing that, we want to get them to have the best product possible. So we made the choice to delay it a bit more. But in better news, just yesterday, he sent us photos of the finished vinyls. They've arrived at Bitter Loss HQ yesterday. So we will have them ready for the Sydney show next weekend, and we will have them at Hierophant later in the year as well. So, and they'll be good. They'll be the actual proper pressings, and they'll play fine. And we're really excited to actually show them to the world. So, yeah,
properly cut. The pictures look promising. Yeah. I've got the 20 that are left over downstairs. I hand inspected all of them. There's very few that are passable, if at all.
Really unfortunate, but.
Yeah, no, it's. I guess it's one of those things that happens. You can't be 100% all the time. There's no animosity to the plant.
It's just one of those things that happens. Hey,
they're trying to cram a lot of stuff in to please everyone. Yeah, and we were just one of those things, being something that's relatively unrecognized and underrepresented. That they were just probably wasn't at the peak of their interest. So. I understand those things happen. It was unfortunate for a lot of people who were really looking forward to having the album posted to them on time, but it's here now. So it'll be out this coming week for anyone who had a pre-order. Unfortunately, what is that, Chris? 9-10 weeks after the release date, the initial.
Doesn't matter. It's worth the wait.
Yeah,
it's better late than never, I suppose. Hey,
that's it.
Good things come to those who wait.
That's it. Now, you've mentioned Bitter Loss Records there a couple of times. You mentioned the good relationship that you guys have with them. How did that actually come about? How did the relationship between Malignant Aura and Bitter Loss get started?
Yeah, so on the back of the album, as many bands do, and even during the recording of the album, we were trying to, shop around for labels and stuff like that. Once again, it comes back to first of all, we're quite a new band, and the financial outlay for a label to put out, particularly a vinyl, a double vinyl for a new band, is significant. So a lot of labels were very interested, but one, they couldn't fit us into their current roster just because of particularly the delays of vinyl pressing in Europe. Sometimes it's up to 14 months delay before they can actually get that vinyl printed. And two, it's just, it's just a bit of a big risk to take on a band like us fresh out the gates with the double vinyl. But so we reached out to Bitter Loss as part of this as well, mainly because we'd seen, a lot of movement in the Australian scene from your labels like Brilliant Emperor, Bitter Loss, Blighttown, and, really wanted to be part of it. Yeah, those three in particular.
Hammer of Exile web store as well. So Hammer of Exile, the Euro distribution. So it's Bitter Loss, Blighttown, and Brilliant Emperor. Yeah, so those guys all work in conjunction with each other. So if you ever bought something that was quite significant in this country with regards to extreme metal,
chances are it comes from one of those three.
Yeah,
that's it.
just because of the distro deal that they have going on, and I know like Chris especially was very familiar with the Bitter Loss web store at the point of putting ourselves forward to them.
Yeah, I bought a lot of vinyls from Bitter Loss, but yeah, we were all really keen on what they were doing for Australian music, in particular, young artists or new artists, and really wanted to be a part of it. So, yeah, we reached out to Rob and Bitter Loss, and the rest is really history, to be honest, and, can't be happier, It's been an amazing process. It's been amazing. So, big props to Rob and Bitter Loss, really, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a pretty positive relationship so far. And I like the commitment as well from Rob to fly all the way from Perth to Brisbane to see you guys. It still blows my mind that it's cheaper and quicker to fly from fucking Brisbane to New Zealand than it is to go from Perth to Brisbane. It's the same country, but it just costs and takes twice as long.
That's it, man. Yeah. That's why no one plays shows in Perth.
He was an absolute legend to spend time with as well. He's such committed and attentive dude. Running that label, and we have a really really positive, continuous chat with the progress of things that are going on within the label. And he's really passionate about it. If he's representing it, he definitely cares about it.
That's good. It's kind of what you want in your label as well. And having a small label with that kind of distro power as well is really good. I've seen horror stories of bands just getting swallowed up by major labels and then ignored and not having any contact with them. And if anything goes wrong, you kind of get sent to one PR guy who sends you to another PR guy who sends you to the HR guy, and you just end up chasing your tail.
That's it, man. Yeah, we can't be happier. He's also he used to be in the Sydney kind of extreme scene a long time ago now, so he really understands underground music, and he's just really passionate about promoting it, particularly Australian music to the world. Just noticed that there was this whole, Australian music wasn't getting out there. Australian extreme bands are just kind of staying in Australia, so he's really keen to promote it globally and just show the world how good the music that Australia makes. Yeah.
I always find Australia's a bit of I know it sounds ridiculous, us here talking and living in Australia, but obviously Cave Dweller goes, I think we've got writers in France, the US, and all these other places, but it seems that unless you're in Australia, you don't really know what's going on, whether we're us three would know about everything that's happening in fucking America, everything that's happening in Canada, know what's going on in Europe, but it doesn't seem to be the same for the rest of the world into Australia.
I think there was a time in Australia, particularly what would be the tail end of the noughties, where there was a lot of extreme music that was globally recognised and had a bit of hype about it. As somebody born and raised in Brisbane, it kind of ties in for me with when Rosie's was kind of hitting its peak. There was a lot of stuff where people were coming and they were doing that East Coast tour as an international band, and then there was a lot of bands in that time frame as well who were really getting out there and getting a lot of like global recognition and representation. But I think it's always been there. But yeah, I don't know, peaks and troughs, I guess.
You see now though, like there's some good death metal bands in particular coming out of Australia. I mean, Faceless Burial is just about to start a European tour off the back of Killtown Death Fest, and Carcinoid are playing that as well. So bands are getting back out there. I mean, after COVID from Australia, it's really good to see Australian metal actually escaping the country again, which is awesome. Really keen, yeah.
Got to export it worldwide. So when's the international tour for you guys lined up then? It seems like you're going to be riding this wave.
Yeah, looking at there's ideas of Southeast Asia.
Yeah, the Indonesian scene and like around there, I remember watching a doco on it, and you just go, "Holy fuck, these guys are so into it."
Yeah, I was on holiday in Indonesia with my wife at the beginning of the year, and it was one of those things where you're just sitting down having a beer, and some really passionate metalhead local comes up to you and they're like, "Hey, are you in a band?" And you're like, yes I am. Here's my album. It's like, "Dick, check out my band." That was a really lovely experience, and he's somebody that I've tried to stay in contact with. But there's a lot of locals in Indonesia who are just insanely passionate. Like they go balls to the wall for this kind of stuff, and they do it almost continuously. Like they are the envy of the Australian scene. Like those dudes really get into it.
Our biggest problem, man, is that everyone's old now and works full-time jobs.
That is the drawback from it, hey?
Yeah. So hopefully soon, man. Hopefully.
Things definitely pick up. Like I don't know. I wasn't expecting the kind of response that we received in the tour, even with other bands. So we had a few COVID dropouts, Matt, and we found some very eager replacements who are aware of what was going on, who were familiar with the product, and who also wanted to push their own kind of thing going out there. It was Hormigaunt for Melbourne, which those dudes were absolutely awesome, and they know how to party. So they're a great opener band. And then we got Stefan from Endless Loss, and the other guy whose name escapes me right now. They were a last minute replacement for the Adelaide show, and that dude, those dudes are just like insane. Like that was awesome. That was such an awesome presence. Just this little guy who is just like really friendly and just doesn't strike you as having like an evil bone in his body. He gets up on that stage without a shirt and a bunch of gauntlets and shit. And just has him on guitar and a guy on drums, and he just starts shrieking, and it's fantastic.
That's a band to watch out for, man. Endless Loss from Adelaide. They're fucking awesome. Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on them. And so you guys sound like you've accrued a fair few not only good support, like not support bands, but bands that you've come across, bands that you've toured with out of the Australian scene, and obviously, yourself excluded. Who would be your go-to if you were to like pin someone against a wall and be like, listen to this band and then I'll let you go? What's your go-to?
Illimitable Dollar.
Nice. That's right off the bat, nice and easy.
I was so stoked with that response, but then it kind of also boils down to everyone's just people.
Yeah.
You listen to stuff and you're like, oh man, that's dope, and then you come across them and you try to interact with them and you're like, oh, that's right, everyone's just a person. You're just
a dude like everyone else.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of good stuff, but that's my pick. But I'm a low and slow kind of guy. I'm based down in Melbourne, and the quality of bands coming out down here are phenomenal. I mean, Hormigaunt, which Jono mentioned earlier, really awesome, kind of really just straight in the face death metal band. Really into those guys. Really good doom band who released an album I think last year, Mammon's Throne. Really, really great band. Kind of have some early Catatonia-esque
type stuff that they play. It's really, really cool. Like Endless Loss, Channel Altar. I mean, the band Altar as well from Adelaide. Saw them 2 weekends ago and they were awesome. Golgothan Remains is also an excellent band out of they just released an album as well. Out of the Brizzy scene, there's some great bands too. Pustlers really fucking rips. Really keen to see. I know those guys are back in the studio, so really keen to see what they're doing.
Nice. That's something to look forward to.
Yeah, fucking oath, man. Yeah, Idle Ruin as well are doing really cool things in Brisbane as well. It's cool to see, like, you know, Brisbane for a long time was just thrash, like just heaps of thrash. And while there was some pretty good thrash that came out, it's cool now to see like this kind of rebirth of death metal.
Yeah,
out of Brisbane in particular. Because it was just like so many thrash bands you couldn't get your head around it. So I'm keen to see like this kind of new death metal coming out. Yeah, it's cool.
It's funny that you should mention Idle Ruin because I was walking through South Bank and it is the only time that seeing a random band sticker on a fucking telephone pole has ever worked. And I checked out Valley Inferno and I was like, this rips. Like more band, I should pay attention to more bands' random stickers.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the vocalist and the drummer of that band is Liam, who used to play in Malachite with Dalton. So,
true. It all comes back around, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah. 6 degrees of Brisbane.
So we've kind of had a chat about the bands that are going around that you guys would recommend. This is a question that came from James. What are some of the classic? I think he said classic. Hold on, let me get this up because otherwise he'll yell at me if I get this wrong. But we'll start off with this. What are some of the classic doom bands? Like, let's break it down a little bit further. Like, what influences do you guys bring to Malignant Aura? John, I know you said you're a low and slow kind of guy, so the doom is very much up your
Iron Monkey,
alley.
Man. Iron Monkey was that first album changed my life.
Iron Monkey. I can't say honestly. Listening to you guys talk, I'm sitting there like, when I do the editing, I'm going to go through and write down all these bands that you've mentioned. It feels like homework eventually.
Yeah.
When I was writing a lot of the stuff, I took heavy influences in some of the riffs, and I mean, if you're familiar with some of the bands, you probably even hear it. A big influence for me was Candlemass on a lot of the rocking riffs. I absolutely love Candlemass. Warning, which is a really excellent doom band, one of the best.
That
doom
album
bands.
is so heart-wrenching, man.
Yeah, Watching from a Distance, that album is phenomenal. Irish band called Morning Beloved is also a major influence. Hooded Menace as well. Really
I love
big.
Hooded Menace.
Yeah. So I got kind of outvoted by the band, but I wanted to put heaps of horror, like cult horror film samples in there. But one got in there eventually.
I was about to say there was one vocal, like audio sample that came through. Where did that come from? What is that movie from?
Possession.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
1980s film called Possession. Yeah, it's got Sam Neill in it, aka Dr. Alan Grant.
Mm-hmm. I hadn't
An
seen...
architect like yourself.
Is he an architect?
No, it's a joke that Jono played.
It's not just me. We all pulled it to your boss at the Melbourne show. So Chris is an archaeologist.
Yeah.
So yeah, the shit joke is we just refer to him as an architect.
But doesn't that make the joke better though if it's just intentionally shit?
I think, because when we all kind of did this rotation at the Melbourne show at the merch desk, and Chris was there talking to his boss, and he's like, introduced his boss to Pete, Tim, to me, and just one by one, just like, oh, you're an architect as well. And he's like, by the time it got to me, he's like, oh man, I've heard this too many times tonight now.
It's good to see that they're running.
It's probably too much of an in-joke to make the actual recording on your podcast.
No, I'd like the dumber the in-joke, the better it is. I'll keep it in.
Okay, cool, whatever. Yeah, let's do it.
Back to influences, I guess.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can keep talking about the similarities and how an architect and an archaeologist are the same thing, but yeah, influences, sure.
They talk about Sam Neill till the cows come home, hey?
But Tim, I know when he was fashioning his vocal style and approach to the album, drew a lot of influences from like Incantation, and yeah, some other like early Australian doom bands like Disembowelment and stuff like that. He was really kind of keen to channel that style, and just all those kind of early '90s peaceful bands, you know, like Paradise Lost. You know, early My Dying Bride and stuff like that. We were really trying to do. I mean, we knew when we were writing the album, we weren't really breaking new ground. You know, we were just kind of keen to write a Death Doom album that really paid homage to the greats of Death Doom. And so we were just trying to emulate that sound more than anything, and combine some more modern elements of death metal in there as well. So, yeah, man.
Well, even old school, there are a lot of things that really that I love that you guys kind of inadvertently like dragged upon, you know, like original Dominus, which is unfortunately now known as Volbeat. But that first album, View to the Dim, is was like it beats Entombed's Left Hand Path to the Punch by like half a year or something like that.
Okay, all right. I am a massive fan of that Entombed record, so I'll have to go back and listen to it.
Who isn't?
It's so good.
As the meme goes, the left-hand path shoes stay on during sex. But no, like that is one of like that's it's very close to my heart tone is Chainsaws, as I make a lot of jokes about it in the band, but I absolutely love that stuff. I love death and roll, I love black and roll, I love the whole rock and roll element of it, and I love just how kind of energetic and pumping it gets in bands like that and Bloodbath, and you know what, like the new renditions of the same kind of thing, like Gatecreeper.
Gatecreeper rule.
Feral, which are an absolutely fantastic one. Bunch of guys from Sweden. They churn out some absolutely killer shit. But yeah, there's a lot of fun to be had with it while also being you know, gut-wrenchingly crushing.
Yeah. And with a lot of like the really sorrowful lead parts, I draw a lot of inspiration from an Australian band who no longer plays called Virgin Black. They were out of Adelaide as well.
Yes.
Excellent, absolutely excellent band. Had this really kind of operatic vocals over these extremely sorrowful guitar tones, and it was really kind of grand and like really operatic. And a lot of the lead parts, the really sad lead parts are kind of straight out of their book, and also bands like Mournful Congregation and stuff like that too, you know. So we're just trying
certain
to
parts
combine elements.
certain parts of Dark Lord as well. Like there's some, like, you know, albeit without twin neck guitar shreds and ridiculous blasts, but there's like there's, you know, an influence of that aesthetic when it comes to the slow crushing parts, albeit few and far between in Dark Lord, but still very potent.
I think we now can kind of understand a little bit more as to what goes in to Malignant Aura. Speaking of things that you guys are putting out, obviously you can fuck off, you stupid little pop-up. You guys have put out the record. The album tour has all but come to a close. There's a show up in Brisbane late October. What else have you guys got planned for 2022 and beyond? We're over halfway through the year. What's the remainder of it look like for you guys?
We're currently writing some more tracks. I know we just released an album. We're writing some more tracks.
Hey, it never stops.
Yeah, it doesn't stop. We're going to put together some of these songs to probably push for a split with another band. Unsure yet about that.
You can do it with Malignant Altar.
Yeah, I mean, the Malignant Ultra release.
There we go. The name's already there.
That would be excellent. But no, we don't have anything locked into that. But yeah, we've got the Sydney show on the 13th of August. We've got a confirmed Brisbane show at the Hierophant, the 29th of October. We may have another Brisbane show locked in before the end of the year, and then
very nice.
We'll probably be back interstate early next year as well. So it's like it's writing and trying to promote the album really, and yeah, that's it, man.
All righty. Well, gents, thank you very much for taking some time out and having a chat to us despite Zoom cutting us off halfway. Anything you guys wanted to say before we wrap it up tonight?
No, it's been a pleasure, Matt. Thanks for having us.
It's no worries at all.
Absolute pleasure, man. Thanks for the support. Thanks to Cave Dweller for the support as well. Really love what you guys are doing also. Everyone keep checking out our album. We're going to have vinyls online. We're going to have leftover tour merch as well. We've sold out of a lot of our designs on the tour, but we've got some represses happened, and hopefully that if we don't sell out in the next run of shows, that'll be back up online. So keep your eyes peeled. Yeah.
I'm staring at a merch bag with some shirts and CDs and faulty vinyl over here.
We're not selling the faulty vinyl.
No, we're not. That might be a giveaway. Don't know what to do with it. I've got 20 of them. We'll figure it out.
You'll work it out. Yeah, I'm. As soon as next payday hits, I'm definitely picking up one of those long sleeves because I don't know what it is. Just metal band shirts feel better when they're long sleeves. I think it's because you can get the print down the side and everything, you know?
Yeah.
You know about that, man.
I mean, the cutoffs work pretty well, yeah.
I think most shirts I get are immediately have the sleeves removed. I think it was actually a competition between me and between Pete and I. Pete was like, "I guarantee you, I'll cut the sleeves off before you," but I got them delivered to work. So I was in his house cutting off the sleeves of my shirt.
You just beat him to it.